Stop stalking. Stop stalking. Stop stalking. Stop stalking kitty. Stop stalking kitty. Stalking kitty. Kitty.
Take the information away. Stop stalking kitty. Take the information away. Stop stalking kitty. Take the information away. Stop stalking kitty. Take the information away. Stop stalking kitty. Take the information away. Stop stalking kitty. Take the information away.
Stalking kitty. Stop 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 stalking kitty. In a way, stop stalking kitty and take the information away. Stop.
Get out of here, stalker.
Everything you do is so fucking wrong! How can you not see that? How can you not see what is this wrong what you're doing?
Send feet pics. Shit man. Here kitty, kitty.
Hello everyone and welcome to this Saturday show with less alcohol, more soberness, faster talking host, no heroin, and hopefully this show will be much better than the last one. Last one was good at 1.5 speed. I hope the audience can hear me. I'll just let chat catch up and tell me. Press 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Can chat hear me? Chat? Okay, chat can hear me. In any case, tonight we have a special guest, NPC Anon, and we're gonna be talking about Jordan Peterson in depth. But before we jump into that, I hope chat liked the intro. That's a very famous fresh lol cow from stream.me, where this channel is going to be hosted in the near future. I'm not sure at what exact date it's going to be starting to be there, but yeah, that's Kitty Style. And somebody who has more information about him before we get into the serious topic of Jordan Peterson is NPC Anon, who is joining me. How are you, NPC Anon?
Hello. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Tell us where people can find you and what do you do?
So you can find me on stream.me/Danish Police, where I am the executive producer of an autism stream made to just mock that spurgy lol cow you just showed there, Kitty.
Yeah, so Danish Police is the channel name, and they have been going really far with fucking with this guy. So far as they've how much money did you donate to? I mean, tell the audience a little bit about who Kitty Style is, and what you did to cause him to cry off the internet, cry himself off.
So Kitty Style is a streamer on stream.me, and he's been there for 4 years. He streams every day from when he wakes up till when he goes to sleep. It's usually 16 to 18 hours. He basically does nothing except for watch mainstream news and listen to mainstream music on YouTube on stream, and he has a text to speech on his chat. So when you go in there and you chat at him, it gets you can mess with him just a little bit, and he lets it happen.
And as far as I know, you guys, he was in jail because he threatened a politician there.
Yes.
And
so the backstory there is that he is a weed smoker, and He's embedded in that community there where he lives. And there's a politician there who basically built her career fighting the that illegal stuff going on there. And so she got some. There was a big thing that went down where they went in and seized some growing materials, and there was a reaction on Facebook where some people threatened her life, and he replied, basically showing support for the people who threatened her life, and worded it very poorly, and they took it to be a threat. So he was arrested, and he spent 6 months in prison. And he basically takes no responsibility for it, and thinks that he was victimized quite poorly. So
Yeah, he's even gone as far as to say he was held in solitary confinement. A lot of people speculated that it was the psych ward. I'm not really sure about that. But after he came out, started streaming, everything with Streamy happened, where a lot of YouTube people just went there, like Ranbot, Ralph, Josh from Kiwi Farms also restreams there. And your guys' channel, and the way you started fucking with him is donating your money from Streamy to this politician. Is that right?
That is correct. We have in fact donated $500 that we have received from Streamy to the politician that put him in prison. And he's not able to handle it one bit, not one bit.
Yeah, he's been losing his shit about that pretty often. And the last video that you saw in the intro chat, that was him crying himself off the internet. He came back after that, and he stopped streaming because his mobile provider, he didn't have enough data. His data plan was basically topped, and he couldn't stream anymore because he used to stream through mobile, which is in itself pretty funny. But all in all, that was Kitty Style, and NPC Anon is here with me. And before we get into Jordan Peterson, there's also some interesting news we should cover a bit. So recently, Sargon was kicked off of Patreon right after Milo was kicked off of Patreon. And as Sargon usually does, he jumps into things without researching anything, without actually looking into things. And he came across this service called Subscribestar. Here's the relevant image on screen, chat. Subscribestar. And well, this image should be already changed because he managed to ruin Subscribestar as well. And the way he didn't do research on Subscribestar. It was a pretty small company, and some people already did research into this. Turns out that a Russian guy owns it, who transferred the LLC that owns the company from Russia to California, and then in turn to Wyoming. There's no really clear legal stuff on the Subscribestar page itself, like who would be liable in any situation. But as soon as Sargon started supporting this page and transferred himself, and even Timpool transferred himself, the page itself got stripped off from PayPal, so they cannot use PayPal anymore. And as far as I know, maybe even some other processors like MasterCard. Anon, you got anything to add?
Yeah. So I have heard some things about this. So last night on the kill stream over on Streamy, the kill stream rabbi, also known as Fudd, came in, and he talked about how Sargon has been dethroned as the leader of the liberalists movement, and from what I have heard, that coincided with him being removed from Patreon, and there may have been a connection between Patreon and some other payment processors that were the cause of that deplatforming from Patreon for Sargon. So there's some inside connections going on there that have been looked into a little bit with all this going on around. And from what I've heard, the personal information of the individuals at MasterCard who are responsible for the recent wave of deplatformings has been acquired and has been provided to WikiLeaks, as I've heard.
So, in turn, you're saying that the actual movement Sargon created has turned against him because of his ability to fuck everything up. And in this actual movement, somebody might be connected to MasterCard, and this information might have been leaked to WikiLeaks. Wow. But as far as this goes, I understand you're gonna have more info possibly by next week.
That is true. Depending on what happens here over the next few days, more information may be leakable. We'll see.
That sounds like some pretty heavy shit, and we already have some heavy shit planned out for tonight. And I was thinking about maybe moving on then to Peterson, and we will have you possibly here as well next week to see any updates about this whole issue with the Liberalists, MasterCard, and the insiders. So the whole purpose of this stream today is Jordan Peterson, in a way, like he's our main topic, and I've done pretty extensive research into Jordan Peterson. What do you think about Jordan Peterson, NPC Anon?
Well, when I first discovered his work on YouTube a few years ago, it was pretty much just his lectures that he was giving on psychology at university, and I thought it was all right because it was psychology, but it was accurate. His takes on things were a little boring and dry, but I didn't particularly see anything wrong with them. But once he started to gain his e-fame, things kind of spiraled, and he started, from my perspective, touching on a whole bunch of things that he just is completely out of his depth in, and he speaks with the same kind of authority that he does on topics that he actually knows about. And from what I can tell, he's trying to be an e-daddy. He's it almost seems like he's specifically targeting people who lacked a strong father figure in their life.
Yeah, he seems to be pretty in tune with the market there, and as far as I think, he's been taking advantage of that market pretty heavily. But people haven't been really looking that deep into his origins. So people have this idea that he started being popular because of his anti-trans stances and anti-trans speech. Basically, he refused to call a he a she and a she a he. And because of that, people think he got media traction, and in turn, he became popular. But Jordan Peterson and the backstory on him goes much deeper. So other people have covered this to some extent, but I managed to compile the relevant information and some aspect of the information that chat maybe didn't hear about. So some of this information is his previous work, something he boasted about. Jordan Peterson worked on the UN Secretary General's high-level panel on sustainable development, editing a document that was released in 2014 entitled A New Global Partnership, Eradicate Poverty and Transform Economies Through Sustainable Development. And a lot of people speculated about his work there. People said just he was an advisor there. He didn't do a lot of work there. But he himself admitted that he was involved in work there for about 3 years. And as far as I know, 3 years, somebody doesn't just work as an advisor on editing a small document for 3 years. And people have he himself admitted that he rewrote the underlying narrative for the whole report that these panelists were working on, these high-level panelists, and he worked on this report to strip out the ideological claptrap, as he said. So in other words, I think he removed any words that would trigger people to look deeper into this documents. Words such as demographic change or replacement, or things that the right has a lot of interest in, and especially a lot of interest in stopping these things like that. And so in July 2012, the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon announced the 27 members of the High Panel to advise the global development framework beyond 2015. So this was a future plan on what to do forward. And this was the target date for the Millennium Development Goals. That's how they called their project, MDGs. And when you look at these goals, these MDGs, it's basically, there's 8 of them, I think, to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, to achieve universal primary education, to promote gender equality and empower women, to reduce child mortality, to improve maternal health, to combat AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, to ensure environmental sustainability, which is, I think, them phrasing battling climate change. I think that's what they wanted to say here. And the last one is to develop a global partnership for development. Now, have you heard about anything I just read out here?
So I've definitely heard of the whole sustainable development thing, and from what I know, it's not a good thing. That's where they're gonna force people into really small living spaces in like high-rise apartment buildings and put them along rail tracks, and that's just that doesn't sound very good to me.
Yeah, and as far as they have a main project there, which is the actual project that the actionable project. So all of this is basically theory until now, and the project that they actually have funds for and did something in the real world with was the Millennial Villages project. And I have all of these notes in a Pastebin chat. I will post the Pastebin after the show. So this Millennial Villages project, this is the project they have funding for, and the chairmen of this project were Ray Chambers and Jeffrey Sachs. So Ray Chambers was appointed to this project. And he served as a special envoy for financing the Health Millennium Development Goals. And Mr. Chambers worked with key funding partnership, including governments, financial institutions, and the private sector to secure adequate resources to provide the essential supplies, like delivery mechanisms, system support, measurement tools needed to attain this MDG project. And in addition to this, he served as one of the UN Secretary General's advocates. And he also has some economic ties to other organizations, such as some people have speculated to the Federal Reserve, but this is where Jeffrey Sachs comes as the second interesting person. So Jeffrey Sachs is one of these advocates against poverty. So in 2015 he wrote Africa's governance is poor because Africa is poor, and he's of the opinion that Africa is in poverty because it is itself poor, it is landlocked, and on this MDG project, this Millennial Villages project, mostly these projects were focused in Africa. So when I read what these projects were addressed against, like HIV, child mortality, people in the West don't see very much use for it if somebody focuses on that in the West. And in turn, this Millennial Villages project was only in Africa and was only done in Africa. So Jeffrey Sachs, yes, he was also he's a professor at Columbia University. He said also that Africa is disease-prone, landlocked, and this is also one of the reasons they're not developed enough. And he's actually been a very big proponent against world banking, but this doesn't sound as good as it's written, because the reason he is against some type of world banking system is because he said they misuse investment, and the only reason he's saying that is because they criticized him on this very project I'm talking about. So on the Millennium Villages project, he was criticized by the World Banks on this because this whole project didn't get a lot of traction, and it wasn't very successful. It wasn't at all successful, even by the takes of their own people, the people working for Jeffrey Sachs and people who wrote books about this, which you can go in depth in the show notes chat if you want to later. But sticking to the point, this is the only reason he criticized these banks, is because he failed at his projections about this project. And as far as the financing for this, the Millennium Villages project, which Jordan Peterson was working on to transform the narrative and more, because we don't actually know what Jordan Peterson did. And as far as the financing goes, so the project was originally founded through a combination of World Bank loans. So they're loans even. They would usually do some kind of a zero interest loan to the settlements, to the countries where they had partnership with, like Rwanda and Ghana. They had the partnerships with their government, and because of these partnerships, I would suspect, I didn't actually find any concrete evidence, but that's usually how it goes. Because they had this agreement to these 0% loans from this Millennium Villages project, they would probably obtain access to some either cheap labor or natural resources, because they would insure this to other investors that, okay, this country is safe to invest in because the government said they would probably use power to secure our resources or our manpower. And so it was created by some World Bank loans and private contributors, including 50 million from George Soros. And the initial timeline of the project was extended to 10 years because it was originally only 5 years. So you have any takes on how are we going as far as now?
Well, anything that George Soros is funding, I think I'm against. Yeah, that much is obvious. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm still only halfway through.
This is the first time I'm hearing these names, so sorry about this.
Yeah, this is only actually halfway, and the gem about Jordan Peterson is the end. This is just looking at the project he was working on. And as far as financing, yeah, the World Bank, George Soros, and the expansion of financing. So after the initial loans and initial investments by George Soros and the World Banks, In 2012, the UK Department of International Development, DFID, committed $18.1 million over 5 years to fund this project in Ghana only. So they were focused on Ghana. And as well as the Islamic Development Bank and the Earth Institute at Columbia University announced the expansion of a partnership. Basically, the Islamic Development Bank provided $104 million in interest-free loans to 8 countries towards ending extreme poverty, as they say, towards this Millennium Villages project. And they phrase it like we're trying to obtain more sustainable development, blah blah blah. These are all terms for their investors, as far as I've been able to do research on. So another 29 million was used to scale up the project by the Islamic Bank, and let me see here. I have all of this in notes. Rwanda government was also involved in this project, but as far as any success, as I said, they haven't really seen any success in these projects. And as far as I know, all of this money was basically channeled to either some corporation that was located there, or to make this Millennial Village project. They would need material, they would need everything of this, and I think all of these companies that provided these materials were in turn somebody associated with the loans in the first place, and they wouldn't be making money off of this. And like some other important members on this high level panel that Ban Ki-moon created, there were 27 members, and some of them aren't really that important. But one of these important members was actually a co-chair, and the co-chair of this high-level panel was David Cameron himself. One of the other co-chairs was Johnson Sirleaf. I'm not sure how you read her name. That's the president of Liberia, the woman that got the Nobel Prize for just being a woman president. There was also the Queen Rania of Jordan, who is notable. And I don't think Chad's going to be surprised by the next one, but the person that represented the United States on this project was John Podesta. So Podesta is the chair of the Center of American Progress. He previously served as a co-chair of the Obama-Biden transition as White House Chief of Staff to President William J. Clinton. And he served as the National Security Counselor on his cabinet. And when you look at this, when you look at Podesta American Progress website, I'm gonna try and open it up for chat.
Can you fix your mic? Everybody's saying that your mic is popping.
Mic is popping. Let me try and work this out then. Should be better now. Is it popping now?
That's good.
Should sound good now. Anyway, let me open up this link for chat. Anyway, you have any takes as far as we've moved on?
Big picture here, it kind of seems like a bunch of bad actors all trying to get forward an ideological agenda. As far as the no success part, that's interesting. The fact that they're doing a pilot project to see if this is really going to work, and it's being stunted by corruption in the target areas. That's funny. That's an interesting take to me.
Yeah, they haven't had any actual success as far as I was able to even like let me see here in the notes. One of their own who worked on this project wrote a book about this. Let me just check the notes here. her name is God damn it. There's a lot of shit in here. Yeah, Nina Monk. She is a journalist, and she actually wrote a book about this. She wrote a book about Jeffrey Sachs, and she was actually involved in this project. And in 2013, she wrote this book about ending poverty, and it was the book was specifically about Jeffrey Sachs. And she cited that all of the information they gave about this project was basically, they boasted how mortality rate was lowered, and because their findings about this project later came out that it was really a successful project, but they attributed a lot of progress in the development in Africa to something that wasn't really related to them, like the lowering of mortality rate, and basically just some aspects of capitalism working on a positive way of bringing people out of poverty. And they cited all of this as something they have done, as something that happened just because of them, so only because of them. And she basically debunked this information, saying that these things would have happened eventually, and these things are already happening gradually. It's just that they listed them as something that they did. But back to see, this is the Center for American Project. This is what Pedesta is a part of, and as you can see, like, some of their main concerns are the Trump administration, DACA, Russia, healthcare, and voting rights. All of the red flags that are raised due to everything we already know. Like, Chad is, I think, pretty aware of how some of these things are pretty bogus. Like Russia, for example, we know it's a nothing burger, and we know why voting rights are important to the Democrats and to the Clintons. We know all of the reasons for this, but yeah, this is all in relations to where Jordan Peterson worked, and to chat, so the chat understands like what kind of people he was involved with. You have any takes on this, NPC?
So I mean, yeah, this, I guess, follows along the line that Jordan Peterson is a charlatan. And is out of his depth, and is a bad actor. It's coming from a position where he has an agenda, and that agenda may not be his own. With these kind of connections that we're going through, it really does seem like his agenda may be, just towing the line.
Yeah, because he presented himself as somebody who was against this sort of a globalist. Not even agenda, but like this ideological talk of globalization. And what's interesting to note about this whole project, like on page 18. So let's take, for example, like, he was only working on writing the underlying narrative of this report, because it's an 80-page document, and working 3 years on an 80-page document, I would think he did a lot more. But let's say he just did that. So on page 18 of this report, under the heading Global Impact by 2030, and I quote, "International migration, the universal human rights and fundamental freedoms of migrants must be respected. These migrants make a positive economic contribution to their host countries by building up their labor force." You see how this in turn connects to the problems, let's say, in Europe today. And
yes,
so yeah, any other takes on that before I move to the next segment on Peterson?
Well, yeah, if he's the one responsible for softening the language to be something that we're not going to notice, but meanwhile the terribleness of the agenda is still there, then he certainly does seem like a subversive actor, doesn't
he? Yeah. I would agree. I would agree, and that brings us to the next. Before I bring out the gem, because the ending of this segment is the actual gem on Jordan Peterson. And before we go to that, we have his basic hypocrisy. Like he, despite what Chad thinks about, like, let's say somebody like Faith Goldie, despite what Chad thinks of her, and I don't really like her, she was invited to this panel for free speech, and this was at the time when Charlottesville was happening, and we know everything that Charlottesville brought. But anyway, in this panel, we see the first segment I'm gonna show to chat here. Should be popping up. Let me see. Give me a second there, chat. So this is the video, and you're gonna hear the audio on your end. This is the video of Jordan Peterson explaining why they didn't invite or disinvited this platform Faith Goldie. And let me just play this. You're gonna hear it.
So Serena, in your introduction, you mentioned that you were of the Milton Mills school of thought and that you believe that reprehensible ideas should be brought to light.
Yep.
I understand that Faith Goldie was removed from the original August panel because of her podcast with the controversial Daily Stormer after Charlottesville. This seems like a performative contradiction to remove Faith because of one interview while claiming to believe in freedom of speech. This strategy also appears to parallel the SJWs who wish to deny platforms for controversial conservative speakers. I want to understand why Faith Goldie was removed from the event simply for associating with identitarians, and what do each of the panelists believe or agree with that decision?
That's an excellent question. So the first thing I should say is it's not like we're unaware of the irony, right? So number one, Ryerson canceled a panel about the cancellation of panels about free speech, right? That's irony number one. And then irony number two was the panelists removed a speaker for arguably engaging in the act of free speech. Okay, we got that, believe me. All right, so why did we come to this decision? I sat down personally, and the other people can say what they have to say. I sat down with my son, and we went through Faith's interview. I know Faith.
Now, before he gives his reasoning, I want Chad to remember this, because this is going to be really important when I play the next video, and he's going to give his reason right now.
I don't believe that she's a reprehensible person. I think that Charlottesville was very shocking to her. I think that she put herself in a very difficult position. And I think some of that was brave, that she went down there to cover it. However, I listened very carefully to her podcast, the one that got her in trouble. And my sense was that she was associating with people whose views she should have questioned. It was her journalistic responsibility to question them. She had to ask at least one hard question. At least one. 3 would have been better. You know, and I understand that she had to toe a careful line. She was on the podcast. They had invited her on. It's much more difficult than you might think when you're facing people, even if you don't believe.
All right, and the next segment, he's just basically talking about, oh, she had a difficult position there because they invited her to the podcast and blah blah blah. But this is important because he's just saying that the reason they deplatformed because she didn't post enough probing questions that as a journalist. So she failed her journalistic duties in addressing any kind of probing questions, because she was interviewed from or by someone from the Daily Stormer, and yeah, and I have another video which is relevant, and this was streamed this was after the panel, and after the panel he gives us a more in-depth look on why he deplatformed, because he got more information. So his story is changing slightly, and I'm gonna play this right now.
Serious, respectful question. Why did you have a problem with Lindsay Shepherd being criticized for being non-critical, but you criticized Faith Goldie for being non-critical? Well,
and for those of you in chat who don't know, Lindsay Shepherd was the one who recorded her she recorded her encounter with the diversity squad at her Toronto University thing. I'm not sure how it is called, but yeah.
The fundamental issue, I really listened carefully to Faith's interview, the interview that was conducted, I think, with the Daily Stormer. I really listened to it, and I sat down and listened to it with my son, whose judgment I respect a lot. And the thing that differentiates the two is that Faith is a journalist. And my sense was that in the situation that she found herself, it was incumbent on her as a journalist to ask at least one or two probing questions, given the nature of the people, the known nature, and the fact that she knew the nature of the people that she was talking to. And I don't feel that she did it. And, you know, I was obviously not alone in my assessment of that. So her employer, who was very favorably predisposed towards her, also let her go as a consequence of that. And so I know that, and I've been accused of being hypocritical as a consequence. And I should also say that the decision to restructure the panel wasn't mine. It was actually, well, it was divided up amongst the panel members, essentially. But that's what we decided. That's what we decided. And, you know, Faith herself had offered to bow out of the panel because she knew that her presence would be controversial in a way that might not be productive. So, whereas Lindsay was just a student, you know, and she was doing what she was supposed to do. Now, I'm not trying to denigrate Faith as a journalist in some general sense, but, you know, Charlottesville was very touchy, and it required an unbelievably deft hand to go into that sort of rat's nest and come out unscathed. And, you know, maybe we should think kudos to her for having the courage to even attempt it. But there's a difference between, it's not that easy to distinguish between brave and foolhardy. And you know what they say? Well, anyways, like I said, we thought about it a lot. I listened to it a lot. We made the decision we made. I'm not trying to say that, you know, it was right in some omniscient sense, but I don't think that the situation that Lindsay Shepherd found herself in is sufficiently comparable to that of Faith to make the question, to make the comparison fundamentally valid.
Look at that brain fart. Look at that brain fart. In any case, you heard this, so he's still sticking to the story that she failed as a journalist, in a sense, that she didn't pose the probing question and she was in the rat's lair. And I mean, talk about smearing some people. He's of the idea, he's of the stance that all of those people in Charlottesville were Nazis and were bad people in his outview. But what's interesting is, so he's talking about, like, they decided to deplatform her, they made this hard decision, blah blah blah. And the next video I have brings on more light to it about why they actually did do what they do in the way that they did. And I'll explain this right after the next video, because it connects greatly to how he wants himself portrayed by the mainstream. And let me just play it for chat. This is him with Majid Nawaz.
Anyways, with Faith, what happened was that, well, we had this free speech rally in favor of free speech, and it was for just after the Charlottesville debacle, and she was actually covering that. And what happened was she was interviewed by a podcast that had ties with the Daily Stormer, which is a known Nazi site, and she went on there.
Was she aware of that?
Yes, she was aware of that. Now,
but note that he wasn't aware of this. Now, before and during the panel, he wasn't actually aware who the Daily Stormer is. In my opinion, as far as I watched the videos, he wasn't really aware of this. But let's continue with the video.
Look, I'm not absolutely certain of that because it's a while ago, but I believe that she was aware of that, and I also believe that she was warned not to do it by her employer.
Right.
Okay. Now, and then what happened on the
as well as this is a new dimension to it. So she was warned by her employer, and she's a journalist, which I have no idea how he's justifying this to his own brain. What do you think, NPC?
Yeah, this is clearly the case of you shouldn't associate with anyone who's guilty of wrongthing. Typical leftist tactic.
Yeah, let's continue with this video.
The interview was that she didn't ask the interlocutors questions of sufficient intensity given her ethical positioning as an inquiring journalist. She was too friendly with them. And so the consequence of that was that she was fired by Rebel Media. Now, Rebel Media is at least a conservative organization, right? And
conservative.
So well, right. Well, that's the thing is that, and so this was a very tricky situation. And so, well, then she was scheduled to speak on our platform, on our free speech rally, and so we asked her if she would be willing to withdraw.
Just for listeners, for example, Tommy Robertson had a gig on Rebel Media. So if you're fired by Rebel Media because you're suspected to be too close to people further to the right, then I mean that's not a good place to be in.
Well, and I don't even know if they fired Faith because they suspected that she was too close to the right. I think they fired her because they thought she had made an error in judgment that couldn't be forgiven given their stance as a journalistic organization.
And he carefully crafted this narrative. I mean, this is pretty obvious. He really thought about this and sat down and said, okay, what is the narrative I want to craft here? Because how can you actually justify to your audience, even though they're just diehard Jordan Peterson fans, how can he justify this to them? How can I look at my audience and say, okay, we were at this free speech panel thing and we deplatformed somebody because they associated with somebody, and even during the panel when the other panelists, I mean, I didn't want to put chat through that video any longer, but even when they go through the panel, they don't have really any harsh words for the people there because they don't want to put this perception out there to the public, like this group, which we think is reprehensible, like he said in the second video on his live stream, is a rat's nest. He didn't want to portray this group during that panel like this group doesn't deserve to speak. But this is what they all meant, actually. They meant like these people don't deserve to be heard, don't deserve to speak. And this is why he carefully crafted this narrative at the panel, because they sat down and they said, how can we make this sound reasonable? And they just refrained from using any harsh words about the people at Charlottesville at that stage, because they didn't want them to seem hypocritical that like this specific group can have free speech shit while the other groups can because they're acceptable to us. And there's a little bit left on the video.
When the panelists, all of us, reviewed what had happened carefully, we came to the same conclusion. And so it was a bitter conclusion. It's not like we weren't aware of the irony. You know, we were perfectly aware of the irony. Indeed. So, but we made a judgment call, and that was in the immediate aftermath of Charlottesville. And so there was no way out of that situation without catastrophe of one form or another.
She was punished for a mistake.
Yes.
Would you forgive her in the future?
It depends. I've already forgiven her.
It depends on the child.
In a practical sense, not in a religious or personal sense. I mean, for example, would you share a platform with her in the future?
I would say I would have to look very carefully at the particulars of the platform and then decide.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to associate himself anymore because of because of the people she spoke to, and he doesn't even want to admit that he wants to forgive her, because he knows in turn that this will cause him to get a lot of shit, and he's not even of the opinion that these people should get free speech. He's of the opinion that these people should be censored. NPC, any takes?
Yeah, I mean, it's just fairly obvious from all of this that he's not a conservative. He absolutely parrots the SJW ideals of, you have to be, you have to think right, and if you don't think right, then you're not a person to them. So
yeah, he called the people in Charlottesville the rat's nest, which is,
yeah.
I think, one of the striking words that really puts into perspective what his opinion is of somebody else that doesn't agree with him. As well as what Chad maybe doesn't know, Faith Goldie volunteered to just leave the panel. I just won't show up. But this, of course, wasn't enough, because they needed to make this into a public thing. Like, we're pro free speech, but we deplatformed this person who was too extreme. So she even volunteered not to show up, but they had to make a public spectacle out of this, so they wouldn't lose favor by not just by the media but some of their audience, because exactly as you said, they are representing the left. I mean, anyone who thinks Jordan Peterson is a conservative after this UN clause of immigration being beneficial to the host economy, as well as the people he worked with, and as well as something we have coming up, the gem in all of this that I found, and I didn't actually see anyone talking about this other than the chance. But what do you think? How much does Jordan Peterson make as far as his net worth?
Yeah, I've seen people speculating about this before and going through the numbers. Personally, I feel it's over $1 million a year, easy. Probably approaching 3 million. It depends exactly how much he's making.
Yeah, so on the net worth leaks, they just compile his earnings, and I know it's difficult to estimate the earnings he has with all of his books, and that's very speculative, but currently in 2018 he's worth 1.5 million US dollars. And here are some of his other net worth over the years, and in 2017 he was at 1 million, and 2016 he was 600,000. So he's been making quite a lot of cash on all of his ventures. So being a professor, having his talks on the Bible talks, as well as his other appearances, and as well as selling his rug for $2,000. You saw that probably, right?
Yes, I did.
A custom carpet made in limited edition and signed for $2,000, which is pretty. I mean, having this much greed, even selling your rug for $2,000. I mean, a rug is what, $100 for just an average rug, and making it $2,000 and a limited use item. This is where it turns. This is where I want you to talk about something before we get into the gem of Jordan Peterson that I found. I want you to tell Chad what you know about his actual work as being the figure who people that follow him think he's some kind of father figure, clean your room, bucko, and all of that. Could you get into that, please?
Yeah. So ever since he started becoming big, he delved into this whole guru stuff where he's trying to become a leader, a dad figure, and he's built up a cult of personality around him, mean, you just have to go to a video with him and insult his name, and you can watch his rabid fan base fall upon you. But his actual work, the only thing that you should be taking seriously from this guy at all, in my opinion, is his psychology stuff. And even then, you have to do it through a lens of, this guy is subversive. He's not on the conservative side of things, but he portrays himself as being that way. He weasels in and tries to convince these people who, in my opinion, never had a strong father figure in their life, that they shouldn't be tribalistic. And we live in a tribalistic world, so that's, he's basically advocating social suicide. And from what I can see, I did kind of take his message to heart at the very beginning. Even I was kind of suckered into this at the very start of this, because I was paying very close attention. And he was saying, take responsibility for yourself and clean your room and all that shit. And I was like, yeah, that's good. That's a good message. But then it just got more and more deep, and he started becoming, in my eyes, he started revealing himself to be a postmodernist. And I think that rug thing that he's got is a perfect example of that. That art on that rug is postmodernism. That's what it is. This guy is a charlatan who doesn't believe that you actually need to be accredited in these topics to be able to talk about them, and to talk about them with authority.
Exactly, like that's a good observation there. The art on that rug, what does it represent in this, especially in this modern age? Like you've seen the France riots and how they sacked, not just sacked, but burned down a modern arts museum, postmodern arts museum. This perfectly connects to Jordan Peterson. People don't want somebody who's just gonna be there as a gatekeeper, because that's what you were basically describing here. He is just a gatekeeper. He's here to make sure he catches everyone who is who has dissatisfaction with the system, dissatisfaction with how the world is moving forward, morals and everything, and he's a net that prevents them from moving farther more to the right, where they would naturally move. And he gives them some easy answers as far as not only political views, but what like their like social inaptness. He basically tells them, like, if you clean your room, that means you cleaned up your life, and you're gonna have a much better chances of an outcome. And I think this is just absurd. I mean, it sounds good at its base level. It sounds like something smart, but in the end, he only says that as the net he is, to prevent people from moving farther to the right.
Yeah, and I think it may come down to sophistry. He has this ideal that he's trying to espouse, but I mean, just this image that I'm seeing on the stream here, it's clear he's not able to keep it, to upkeep it himself. He's not putting forth what he has managed to achieve. He's putting forth what he wants to have achieved, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, and especially somebody pointed this out in chat, how he gave up on the bake the cake issue, how he was pro people should be able to choose who they bake their cake for, and he just gave up that point on one talk show because they didn't really convince him. He just did this as a play, as a dramatical play, like, okay, yeah, you're right, if I say they can do this, then people can refuse their services to specific ethnic groups, and that in turn is against what I actually believe, I as in Jordan Peterson. And he just gave up that point instantly on one show. And
yeah, and I'm not surprised, because that is a postmodernist tactic that when you can't really support something, you give it up, you change.
Okay, I'm gonna reset my mic again, chat. should be working now again. Anyway, this brings us to the last and final, one of the final chapters I want to go through today, and this is the actual gem of the cake. The gem, Chad. Chad knows gem. Chad knows probably who ER is and all the debacle there. So this gem I found was actually how Jordan Peterson became not only famous in the circles of globalists and the UN, but famous for the public audience. And so let me read some of this. And this was, I don't know why people didn't find this before. I think probably because people who read a foreword of his book are going to be his supporters, because nobody who wants to criticize Jordan Peterson are going to actually read the foreword. And this was in his foreword. So let me read this. The first time I met Jordan Peterson was on September 12, 2004, at the home of two mutual friends, TV producer Wojtek Samberg and medical internist Estera Biker. It was Wojtek's birthday party. Wojtek and Estera are Polish emigrants who grew up with the Soviet Empire, where it was understood that many topics were off limits, and that casually questioning certain social arrangements and philosophical ideas could mean big trouble. So he was familiar with Wojtek Samberg. And Wojtek Samberg is like a TV producer in Canada, and he was the one who started actually filming Jordan Peterson on his lectures. And I'm just gonna bring up a picture here to give Chad a better idea on who this guy is. Not sure, NPC, if you see this image, but yeah. So this is Wojtek Samberg, and this is one of his tweets. So there's a little bit of a red flag here already. And Chad knows how this is gonna progress, basically. So there you go, Chad. That was the tweet, and let me continue with this. So he. The guy that wrote the foreword to Jordan Peterson's book is another guy, and he's talking about how Wojtek basically put Jordan Peterson in front of a camera. And let me put up a picture of who actually wrote the foreword, and the person who wrote the foreword is named Norman Deutsch. Norman Deutsch, and let me bring his picture up here for chat. There we go, chat. So this is Norman. This is old Norman here. And let me continue reading about the next paragraph. To understand ideology, Jordan read extensively about not only the Soviet Gulag, but also the Holocaust and the rise of Nazism. I had never before met a person, born Christian and of my generation, who was so utterly tormented by what had happened in Europe to the Jews, and who had worked so hard to understand how it could have occurred. I too had studied this in depth. My own father survived Auschwitz. My grandmother was middle-aged when she stood face to face with Dr. Joseph Mengele, the Nazi physician who conducted unspeakable cruel experiments on his victims. And she survived Auschwitz by disobeying his order to join the line with the elderly, the gray, and the weak, and instead slipping into the line with younger people. So keep in mind, Chad, I'm reading this from 12 Rules for Life from Jordan Peterson, and the paragraph continues. She avoided the gas chambers a second time by trading food for hair dye, so she wouldn't be murdered for looking too old. My grandfather, her husband, survived the Mauthausen concentration camp, but choked to death on the first piece of solid food he was given, just before Liberation Day. I relate this because years after we became friends, when Jordan would take a classical liberalist stand for free speech, he would be accused by left-wing extremists as being a right-wing bigot. Let me say, with all the moderation I can summon, at best those accusers have simply not done their due diligence. I have, with a family history such as mine, one develops not only radar but underwater sonar for right-wing bigotry. But even more important, one learns to recognize the kind of person with the comprehension, tools, goodwill, and courage to combat it. And Jordan Peterson is that person. My own dissatisfaction with modern political science's attempts to understand the rise of Nazism, totalitarianism, prejudice was a major factor in my decision to supplement my studies of political science with the study of the unconscious, projection, psychoanalysis, the regressive potential of group psychology, psychiatry, and the brain. Jordan switched out of political science for similar reasons. With these important parallel interests, we didn't always agree on the answer, thank God, but we almost always agreed on the question. Have you ever heard about this paragraph, NPC, that I just read here?
No, that was the first time I'd ever heard that. That's I don't know who's echoing who anymore.
You don't know who's echoing, and this is, I just put another picture about Norman Deutsch. He looks like a fetching fellow, doesn't he?
Yes, quite the greasy grappler.
Norman Deutsch, and he is the one who wrote the foreword about Jordan Peterson's book, and now we get the idea of who Jordan Peterson hangs out with, who he spends time with, and now we have a better understanding of who Jordan Peterson actually is and what he is about, because as it was mentioned in the paragraph, that he developed, so Norman Deutsch developed a radar and sonar for right-wing bigotry, but somebody who would combat this perfectly was Jordan Peterson. So in tail, he is basically saying that Jordan Peterson, confirming that Jordan Peterson is a gatekeeper, and he is here specifically to fight not only right-wing ideas, but to be the gatekeeper of all of the right-wing policies.
You know, I used to respect one thing that Jordan Peterson said, and that was you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm beginning to realize what he truly meant by that. I'm not going to say it, but wow. Just wow.
Yeah, and that last part, I was saving it specifically for this reason, because it unveils everything. It unveils who Jordan Peterson actually is, and who is the one who put him in front of the camera, who is the one who... Oh shit, mic's popping again. Okay, I reset it again, chat, thanks. So now chat understands why Jordan Peterson is so dangerous, and why he's not only a liar and a hypocrite, but he's a globalist 2.0. He worked with international bankers. He worked with somebody who's involved with the Clintons and who's Podesta. I mean, we know all we know from Podesta. He is, in a sense, he knows about what open borders brings to a country, but he's secretly for it. I mean, if he wrote the underlying narrative behind this, then we know he understands what this brings to any normal society, what open borders bring. But he is for it. He is a liar, he is greedy, And he was founded and found by people who we already know don't have our best interest at hand. He has house parties with them. And one of the last things I want to put up here is put to chat's attention is he did New York speaking tour or something like that, where they asked him about JQ, and this is where he did his dramatical play, his little dance, song and dance of pacing around. I'm gonna play the video, but not the audio for the audience, and because we already know what was talked about in there. But I just want Chad to see his reaction, and his reaction is he was just pacing around, and in the end he couldn't do it. Not only that he couldn't do it, but some of the people he praised oftenly in his talks about being against totalitarianism and how the Soviet Union was bad, how Nazi Germany was bad. He cites Alexander Solzhenitsyn a lot. And I don't know if Chad is familiar, but Solzhenitsyn wrote a book, which is, I think, available on YouTube, actually, in English audiobook. And in this audiobook, it's called 200 Years Together. And it talks about why the Soviet Union happened, how it happened, and who was behind it. Who. And Jordan Peterson, never read the book, and this is one of the people he mostly praises. He says he reads his book and he cries. He praises this man, and he never even heard of this book or never even read it. And this is one of the greatest works of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And here we see Jordan Peterson just pacing around on stage. He doesn't know how to react. He can't do it, Chad. He just can't do it. And yeah, that's that video. But I also have one more thing on that. So after this, so I carefully looked at the dates. So this oh, I'm sorry, not after, before. I carefully looked at the dates of when this speech or occurrence in New York happened, where he couldn't address it. I carefully looked at this, and when he actually addresses the JQ on his live streaming channel, and I have that video pulled up. And I'm gonna play that video for Chad, because before he had this dramatical occurrence on stage where, oh, I just can't, I can't. Before this, he already did address it, but he then saw the backlash of the intellectual community who said, well, what do you say here is wrong? But let me play the video, and you're gonna hear it on his first reaction to people asking him about the JQ.
Okay, all right, what the hell? Okay, all right, what the hell? Address the Jewish question. That's a hell of a thing to ask. So that's Jack Lintern, you know? I mean, really, that's a hell of a thing to ask. But I will say something about it, you know, and I've thought about this a lot. So there is evidence that Ashkenazi Jews, so those are Jews of European heritage, have IQ 15 points higher than the population average. So that's a lot, 15 points. It's about the average difference between the typical high school student and the typical state college student. It's a lot. And one of the things that means is, so imagine there's two distributions and that they overlap, and that the Jewish one is the mean is 115, so the whole distribution is shifted to the right. What that means is that if you go up into the higher IQ strata, 130, 145, way the hell up there, that Jewish people are overwhelmingly overrepresented at the high end of the IQ distribution. Now, the price they pay for that is some increased propensity for neurological diseases that seems to be associated in some sense with that heightened IQ. Now, you know, the science on this isn't settled, but it's reasonably solid, you know, given the standards of such things. Okay, so Jews are going to be overrepresented at the high end of cognitively complex disciplines. So then I would say, And that's the case. Like, they're way overrepresented among like outstanding scientists and among Nobel Prize winners and so forth. And so, you know, people look and they think, well, why are there a disproportionate number of Jewish people in positions of authority? And they say, well, it must be a conspiracy. You know, it must be systemic in some sense. It's like, no, it can be simply accounted for by that relatively large IQ differential. Now, the next criticism would be, well, don't the Jews tend to lean left? Well, first you might say, well, you know, given what happened in Nazi Germany, to the degree that that was right wing, as we discussed earlier, that's the nationalism and ethnocentrism. It's hardly surprising that they might, you know, in this historical period of time, tend to move towards the left. But more importantly than that, IQ is associated with trait openness. And trait openness is a strong predictor of political liberalism. So, and it's the strongest predictor of political liberalism. So, you know, it's very difficult. So that's what I have to say about that. It's like, and the other thing I would say is, you know, the fact that there's a population, a subpopulation of people who are much smarter than average. Not on average, right? On average, you got to get that straight. On average is actually of great benefit to the rest of us, because what do you want? Fewer geniuses? Fewer people with IQs of 145?
What do you want, chat?
That's, and you know, and it's no conspiracy that puts people who are smarter higher up in competence hierarchies, because IQ is the best predictor of movement up in a complex competence hierarchy.
And here is where a lot of what he said. So keep in mind, chat, this interview happened before that stage appearance I showed before, where he was dramatically pacing. And why this is relevant is because people started shitting on him. The first thing they said, like some more controversial figures pointed out that like that intelligence not survey, but those research papers on the Ashkenazi intelligence were based on a very insignificant group in a specific area, and were only like there were like only 33% of some high school, I think, or something like that, and they didn't really represent in any good way the whole of population of the Ashkenazi Jews. But not only that, what he said at the end, which doesn't even have to do with Ashkenazis themselves, is when he said intelligence is the biggest predictor in success in complex hierarchical societies. And this is where a lot more people started shitting on him, because, I mean, I'm sure you're aware, MPC, that these societies, especially complex societies, have no... success is not at all predicted by the height of your IQ or height of your intelligence. It actually starts working against you if you have high enough IQ. It starts working against your success rate. You know about this?
Yes, I do. And knowing his psychology stuff, I can tell you where that difference actually lies. If you are far too intelligent, you begin to lose your own personal bias, and you start looking at all this stuff from an outsider perspective, and that prevents you from seeing the best possible path forward for yourself. So there are people who are just intelligent enough to see what they need to do in order to get ahead, and then to do it. But to say that those are the smartest people around is a fallacy.
And even the most successful people, especially, because at some point, intelligence just works against your productive capabilities.
Yes, some of the highest IQ people in the world are quite insignificant in terms of the public eye and academia and what they're accomplishing.
Yeah, as far as... Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean... And then there's the other part where IQ, it's not perfect. I mean, it's a generalized intelligence test, so it's not gonna to get you everything, and primarily what it is a test of logic, your ability to perform logic, and your ability to recognize and match patterns. And so some people are really good at that, but are completely socially inept. So despite them being so intelligent, they can't see how to influence people to get them to
yeah,
a
and
successful point.
and that's exactly what I wanted to point out. This doesn't mean actual monetary or any kind of academic success, in a sense that people could rise to a top of today's hierarchy, or even any other societal hierarchy, just by being intelligent, because exactly about the problem of this social inaptness, because this is a key part of people who are successful, is being socially apt enough to interact with society to the point of being successful. And this is where he got it wrong, and he got a lot of shit, especially from Wog's Day. And I don't know what Chat thinks about Wog's Day. I don't pay a lot of attention to him, but he does pretty good debunking on Jordan Peterson. And one of the streams I would recommend is JFG's Jean-Francois's stream with Wog's Day, where he not with Wog's Day, but about Wog's Day, where he talks about Wog's Day's book Jordan Addicts, where basically Wog's Day shits on Jordan Peterson and on his book 12 Rules of Life. And actually, this book from Wog's Day is a top seller, which is a bit heartwarming, because this book is just shitting on Jordan Peterson. So 12 Rules of Life is no longer the bestseller, but Jordan Addicts, the book that shits on 12 Rules of Life, this is the current bestseller, new bestseller on Amazon.
Your mic is popping again.
I'll just reset it then again. Alright, should be working now. Any takes before I get some callers in? There are a few callers in.
Just one question. Do you read super chats out here?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to the super chats then. So from Obvious 8, he said, missing Brexit on image 2. Yeah, that's in relation to Sargon. I wouldn't give him as much credit as to killing Brexit, but killing UKIP was certainly one of his doings. Okay, and we have from some Russian name, €10. Jordan Peterson provides an intro level of philosophy and self-help. It is nothing you can't find from Ziegler or Carnegie. The problem is people treat him like he is the next Plato. I would agree. I mean, his stuff is the entry-level stuff, and this ties into our whole conversation. Why is Jordan Peterson successful? Because he is allowed. He is one of them, one of those people who run society and who focus on providing us with what they think we need. And that's why I think he's actually successful, because you don't see anyone else that talks about these underlying ideas of society, who you like or who you follow, that has actual good ideas being successful, because he is instantly put down on any sort of media platform. And Manchester Police for $5 says Peterson is glow in the dark, Triteral Commission, cross-dressing commie lover that gets high off his ability to say bipolar facts and not get fired. Again from Tanya for €2, she said ER does the best film and anime reviews. I would agree. ER has one of those long ass videos that you can actually sit and watch for more than 1 hour, and you don't have to watch the movie after it. Manchester Police says, did she buy hair dye from the Camp Walgreens? That's in relation to the grandmother what's his name? Deutsch? Norman Deutsch. Yeah, Norman Deutsch. Well, I don't know. She seems to have traded bread for it, so seems the bread market was up in those days. In any case, I posted a link in chat if anyone wants to join. That's the link. I think it should work. And we'll get some people in here. All right, let's try fluoride first. So, Fluoride, you are on the air. Please give us your
Hey.
take.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say, nice find, Kurist. That's a pretty nice presentation of Jordan Peterson.
No, thanks, man. You have any take on what we've covered so far?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, basically, all Jordan Peterson done is changed careers from being a college professor to being kind of a talking head. That's all you're looking at when you're seeing him changing and getting into the scene and talking up to people.
Yeah.
And he's obviously been coached by his bloody Jewish friend, and you actually brought that to the fore, so we know who's actually giving him his ideas, and who he's actually talking to and mingling with. So
yeah,
it's really
it's funny how he manages to get publicity and how he manages to get on these large media's panels, like interviews he had in Australia, the US, Canada. How he gets, yeah.
I was actually gonna say the Kathy Newman debate was a reward to him. That here, have this low quality debate and win it, and you're gonna look fantastic.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's the point I was gonna make. He manages to get on all of these major media shows. How? Because nobody nobody that's an actual conservative or to the right has access to these media platforms. But thanks for calling in. And
there's a couple more things
you have any? Oh yeah, sure, go on.
Yeah, basically, he was supposed to be a trifecta. Maybe the four horsemen of the apocalypse routine, with base black man, based gay man, a base college professor, and based Sargon.
He was supposed to be on a panel with them.
Well, no, he's kind of supposed to be some sort of trifectas for basically the state, because at the end of the rope, he is just a talking head for the state.
Yeah, as he said in his UN the UN work he did, he said he's changing the narrative, and I think he's only masquerading or putting more acceptable words in the mouths of leftists and SJWs and whatever Chad wants to call them. We know who we're talking about. He's just making them talk more acceptably, talk more positively to the broader audience. Like the broader audience would then see someone like Jordan Peterson and agree with most of his ideas, even though he's masking his general intention.
Yeah, it's just like Sargon said, it's deception through leaving points out. It's a good point to take off that. Anyway, cheers, Kurist. You keep this up with your lovely talking points, and you'll get on bloody JF's stream.
We'll make Trump tweet out the MMA channel.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, see ya, man. All right, let me get. Okay. So XX, you're muted, but you're live. Can you unmute yourself? All right, we'll try him later. I know this guy wants to talk. ECLP, you're live. Give us your take.
Oh. Hold on.
Whoop.
There we go. Wait.
There we go. You're live. You have any takes on what we've been talking about?
Kick me out. Get somebody else. Let me fix this.
All right. Technical difficulties. Cassandra Effect, you're live and you're muted. Jesus Christ, another one that's muted. Okay, I know this one. This one is you're live, Nila Kigger. You're live. Give us your take on what we talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that stupid fucking his little excuse about Jews having high IQs.
I see that almost slipped,
People who are-
and you fixed it.
I just realized I was on YouTube.
Okay,
I was
good
gonna come in
catch.
here and call you both the thing I usually call everyone.
Yeah,
in chat,
yeah,
but
the funny boats in the fast rivers. Yeah, I know. And go on.
Yeah. People who are highly intelligent are pretty much all autistic. So the chances of highly intelligent people actually succeeding in this, basically this world where you've got this unrestrained capitalism where you can basically just manipulate and screw over people, like what happened in the global financial crisis. Well, in every global financial crisis, is pretty much zero. People who are that intelligent just don't fucking care.
Yeah, I would agree. They're either very brag-filled. Yeah, I would agree. They're either very brag-filled or they are unable to climb atop the hierarchical ladder of society because of their high intelligence, their autism, their black-pilledness, and the rest of it. Their social inaptness.
Who was that guy who posted something on Facebook and got banned for it, or temporary ban? He was like, they called him the smartest guy on the planet. Can't remember his name.
Is it?
An idea. He basically just.
I'm not sure. I'm only familiar with the recent guy that was yelling on the street how he loves white people, but I don't think that's the same guy here.
Yeah. There's also that, but the guy I'm thinking of, he's basically just a homesteader. He basically went, screw you, I'm gonna go off the grid and just do my own fucking thing.
Yeah, and who's that American? Oh shit, I forgot about his name. Is the Unabomber? What's his name? I seem to have forgotten.
Ted Kaczynski.
Yes. He's I think one of those guys that went off the reservation because he was aware
Chris
of
Langan, that's his name.
Chris Langan. I'm not sure about him, but yeah, like somebody like Ted Kaczynski is somebody who went off the reservation because he was aware of where society was heading and he was pretty black-pilled about it, I think. Yeah, anyway, thanks for...
Just completely different fucking priorities.
Yeah, thanks for coming in and appreciate you calling and see you next week. All right. Let's see. Pulaski, you are live. Give us your take. Mute the stream and let's go. Chop. And nothing. 1, 2, 3, you are out. Okay, let's get Soylent Goy. You're fucking deafened, man. I can't bring you on. I can't bring you on stream if you're deafened. But anyway, let's. Maybe he fixed his audio. ECLP, you're live. Did you fix your shit?
I sure did.
You sure did. Give us your take, bud. Oh yeah.
I heard all about Jordan Peterson. I used to follow him right around when he used to get screamed at by fucking social justice warriors at college campuses, but then after Papa Jim told me about how he was selling personality tests, I completely lost interest. But it's interesting to hear how his whole sham's starting to come undone and everybody's learning about the whole entire cult of personality Jim Jones shit he's selling, which I think is fun. Might be worth reading into again.
I'm not sure, like, his fans are one of the shittiest fans. Like, they defend him more than they defend some female conservatives or stuff like that. Like, they're pretty hard ass fans, and anytime you write something negative on his videos, you're gonna get shit on by everyone who sees the comment. But yeah,
that seems reasonable enough. I mean, if you think about the overzealous nature of the things he's selling, then yeah, it could get to be that. It seems like it should be that way if he's going to be doing what he's doing, but it's what you expect.
Yeah, well, thanks for your take, and see you next week, bud. You have something else to add?
I had one more thing, though.
Sure.
I had one more thing. The Discord, you labeled me Spurg. I would very much prefer the proper terminology, and that would be liberal.
Liberal
I
cock.
dislike what you've...
Because you're the
No,
one who
not
said... No, wait. You're the one who
I
said...
said Jim could fuck my wife,
Yes.
but there is no wife, so technically I can't be cucked if I'm not married. That's how you get them.
Okay, I'll consider the request, and thanks for calling in. See you, man. All right, and let's try the last two callers we have in the waiting room. Hello, Cassandro, you're still muted. You have any take, or I'm gonna put you in AFK?
Hey, is this working?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wow, it's amazing. Yeah, I think most of the things have been said about Peterson that need to be said, but like the thing that puzzles me most is like he does actually, I think, say a lot of smart things, even if they aren't necessarily his own ideas, you know. Like if you've never read Young, like the ideas are completely new, and then you read the books that he advises, and you realize he doesn't actually have that many of his own unique ideas.
We didn't mention this, but yeah, he takes a lot of his opinions on psychology and everything, and especially his help advice from Young. He even based his tests on personality tests a lot on Young's 16 personality test.
He did? Oh, I didn't know. And I'm a bit surprised at people saying he's not smart. It's obviously a very smart guy. I mean, he's been able to fool like quite a lot of smart people for quite a long time before people started waking up from the spell. And I think this is because he's such a weirdo, you know. He's such an eclectic individual, and he can make it work because he is smart, and he's able to make it sound like he's saying real stuff, you know.
He's very eloquent, yes. He is a professional speaker, I would say, because he does these cute little things like where he has problems of conveying his point, and you can actually see like how he thinks about these points aloud, and I think that's all a show. I think that's him just trying to be more likable.
Yes, for sure. And have you seen this video that was done by like genetically modified skeptic or something? Like it's a very spurgy skeptic video. It's like very tedious to watch, but the point brought forward is actually a very important one. Where Peterson claims that these old images of snakes intertwining, that like these old Aztec images and Egyptian images, that they were actually a representation of DNA because it's a double helix, you know, it's two snakes intertwined. And I mean, in one of his lectures, he says like, yeah, I really believe that this is, you know, an early representation of DNA, like people would actually understand it at that time. So of course someone asked this in one of the times where he's speaking like in front of an audience. I mean, you should actually watch it.
Yeah, send me on Discord and I'll check it out. But thanks very much for giving us your take, and see you maybe next week. Cheers. All right, Anon, you have anything to add before I finish these calls? There's like 3 more people in.
No, bring them all in.
All right, bring them all in. Oh, that's gonna be a clusterfuck.
No,
let's go. Fluoride.
Yeah, I was.
Were you here already?
Yeah, I was here, but I wanted to jump back in, of course.
Oh, okay, cheeky bastard. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, Jordan Peterson's selling his shit, making money, making bank and all that, and well, everyone's got to have a career, and if his career is taking him through psychology, taking him through all that, now it's led him to this, and he's still gonna make money, so I can't blame him too much for that, but yeah, whatever. He can
No.
believe what you like, but he's still got to make money at the end of the day, and
Well, he's making enough money, in my opinion, to sustain himself in a long run. And I think just the extra stuff he does explains a lot on which side he is fighting for. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
See ya.
I will say,
okay.
If you want to understand people, you got to have empathy for them. You can't just demonize them. It's a mistake, a big mistake. All right, cheers to that, Kurist.
Yeah, see ya. Spider Zero, you're still muted, and XX, you are muted. No, yes, muted. It seems like these people don't go in the waiting room if you don't want to come on air. Seems like these are all the guests, and I'm popping, and I apologize. I'm gonna reset the and the audio is reset. Should be fine now. Any other topics you want to cover about Jordan Peterson, or anything else you want to add, NPC?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything that I was wanted to cover on him. Again, he's completely out of his depth. I guess the one last thing is there's this idea that we expect these people to be where they're at based upon their merit. But it's clear that there's inside connections that are being used here, and it's I forget the word for it, but yeah, he's not there based upon his merit for a lot of things he's doing. Again, the only thing I think he really knows is psychology. Everything else he says, he's been coached, or he's taking things from books. He's standing on the shoulders of giants without truly adding to them. And yeah, he's a charlatan when it comes to the whole self-help stuff.
All right, that brings us to the end of Jordan Peterson and talking about him. Do you have anything you would like to say to chat? Anything we should keep an eye on, NPC or stuff like that?
Yeah, I'll do the shilling. You can find me over at stream.me/Danish police.
Stream.me/Danish police. Are you gonna be joining me next week and to give me a update on the little thing we talked about at the beginning about information being leaked to WikiLeaks?
Yes, assuming that it doesn't all become public in the next week, I will be back to drop whatever I can.
All right. Still, there's somebody in the call room who is being an autist. Spider Zero, you're live. You don't need to mute yourself in the waiting room. You're already muted.
Well, it already muted me because I didn't have push to talk on, so I had to go turn on push to fucking talk on.
No,
So,
it just mutes you automatically because people have been complaining that they start conversation in there and then I bring them on air and they're confused. But yeah, give us your take on what we've been talking about.
I can't believe this fucker doesn't even clean his own room. Are you
kidding
me? He makes like a million, 1.8 million a year, and this fucker's been teaching, clean your room, bucko. Make sure you wash your penis. I don't even think he washes his penis either. I think he just, I don't know. I'm just baffled that he doesn't clean his own fucking room.
Yeah, I'll bring up that image. I'll bring up that image to chat. I have that image of his room where it's not clean, bucko. There you go, Chad. This is his unclean room. But anyway,
was it because that one video where he's like, "Oh, I'm live streaming," because he's a fucking boomer? Wasn't that his maid in the background cleaning his own room?
I mean, if I earned $1.6 million a year, I would get somebody to clean my shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
That's true. Maybe maybe Sargon could be his maid, and probably his house will fucking burn down on the rate how fucking Sargon's looks.
I think anything Sargon gets involved with, he's been managing to destroy. So I would be for that idea. I hope Sargon does work for Jordan Peterson at one point. But anyway, thanks, Spider Zero.
Oh, hold on. I want to make one more point. I saw Crow was saying something about Andy was getting super chats taken away because he's being alt-right or whatever the fuck. At this rate, I'm going to make a prediction that Sargon is going to be this main cause of why super chats go away if he's going to start streaming more, which seems like it.
Pretty sure they already are the reason why a lot of this monetization problems are located on YouTube because of Candid. I mean, that's where all of that started, with Candid and the Septics shilling for Candid, and then that in turn being used as a bot system on YouTube to demonetize because we knew what was not safe and what was safe. I mean, that started there, and I think it's basically the Septics war with how do I call them? Sweetie Squad, like Jim's viewers, Ralph's viewers, anyone on the right who just enjoys right-wing politics or just likes to troll on the internet. This war between them is just gonna end up destroying any chance of making money on YouTube.
I can't believe Shoe on Head and Armor Skeptic are going to be the only ones left out of the Skeptics.
In the end, it seems they're the best skeptics.
The fat Canadian and the fucking chick that eats her own hair are going to be the top skeptics on YouTube after fucking Sargon kamikazes himself off of the
How funny is that? How funny is that? But anyway, thanks for your take. I'm gonna sunset you now. That was pretty funny. And you're the last guy on. You don't need to mute your mic. Siko, sweetie, Siko, come on, Suko, Siko. 3, 2, 1, and you're gonna be out of here. All right. Not taking any more calls. This is the end of the call-in segment of the show. I hope everyone enjoyed the show. I'll just shill one more time. I'm probably gonna get CRP on. Maybe Saturday, maybe Wednesday. I'm gonna try Stream Me, probably. And this channel is going to eventually move to Stream Me. So stream.me/Metokurist. That's my channel there. And NPC's channel, or the channel where he hosts with other people, is stream.me/Danish Police. And they're a pretty cool community. They fuck around a bit, talk about serious shit a bit. They do longer streams, and that's where you can find NPC. NPC, anything you have to add before I sunset you and end the show?
No, it's been great. Thanks for having me on. It's a good time, chat. Hope to see you next week.
Yeah, sure will. And NPC's out of here. It's just me, chat. It's just me, and I hope you enjoy this. I put a lot of effort into researching Peterson and everything that surrounds him. I try compiling a lot of work everyone else already did. So it's like some work like what's his name, Red Ice TV, some of the work from JF, some of the work from Wog's Day, and some of my own work. And also what I read on his UN panel. I try to compile it in an interesting way, and hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm gonna put in my shill shit in the chat. That's gonna be my future channel, future streaming channel. If anyone wants to go subscribe there and see me in the future. Next week's Saturday show is probably also going to be at 6 p.m. I might do another show on Wednesday if I get the time, and I think I'm going to be doing it on Stream Me exclusively because I need to figure out how shit works there. And I'm not deleting this stream. It's going to stay up. I think we were PC enough for it not to get nuked out of orbit. And thanks for everyone for being here. We still managed to pull better numbers than Donga, even though this show has been on air twice. And I really was interested to see if anyone would show up if Ralph didn't retweet it. And we did get a pretty good audience. So thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks for the support. And I'm gonna play you guys out with a little song, and see you next Saturday. And if you're interested, see you on Wednesday night on stream.me/Metokurist.